we were having the conversation, and she denied objective moral truth and reality. And so I got to her saying, I said, well, can't you agree with me that owning would you at least agree with me that like slavery, owning another human being is objectively wrong? Like, it doesn't matter what culture it is. It doesn't matter where you are in this world. That's a wrong thing to do. And this girl, who was a minority, wouldn't actually agree to it.
What?
Yeah.
No, that has not come up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it still bothers me because I was having a conversation with her, and I said, I actually just ended the conversation and said, I'm really sorry to hear that you feel this way. Like, I can't live in a world where there's not an objective moral truth, and that, all human beings, I believe all human beings are created with value and dignity. And as a Christian, I believe they are made in the image of a creator. Therefore, there is objective moral truth. Killing innocent humans, enslaving them, using them for your own personal gain is wrong, is wrong to do that. And there really wasn't much more for me to say, because like, how am I going to convince her abortion's wrong if she doesn't believe that slavery is wrong? It was,
that's a first I've ever heard. But the idea of subjective morality and my truth being different from your truth, so therefore my moral code of what is right and wrong is different from yours, that has come up, and that vein of thought has come up many, many times throughout our tour this spring. It always fascinates me, because the people that you would think are the most vocal about social justice activism, of caring for the most oppressed, of trying to help the little guy, sometimes literally, right, overcome obstacles in society and have a voice for the voiceless, cannot wrap their head around why abortion would be morally unjust. And it's such a fascinating barrier that I think we've hit so many times on this tour, especially during our Q&A portions.
What about the girl last night?
Yeah, I mean, they literally can't like get to where you want them to go. And you can bring up all of the examples from the past that you possibly can think of. Slavery, you could bring up the 3/5 compromise, you can bring up women being owned as property, you can bring up the Holocaust or the Rwandan genocide, or like literally any other human rights atrocity in human history, particularly the ownership of another person under law, that person wasn't even considered a person, which is very comparable to what we see with the preborn today. And they cannot make the comparison in their head.
It's no, I mean, think about last night. So last night I went out and I invited all the protesters to come in. Most of them refused. They wanted to scream and yell demonically outside the whole entire time. But some pro-choicers did come in, and we set aside our speech, because this has been a thing that we've been doing, of saying, hey, look, if you're pro-choice, you can ask your questions first before Isabel and I even speak. So we did 80 minutes of that. We had to do like a condensed version of our speech. I felt so bad. But afterwards, there was a pro-choice girl who came up to me, and then I moved away from the conversation. She latched onto you, and I felt
she was very sweet. She was great.
She was very kind, very sweet. But she, what you just said resonate with me, because she started the conversation saying I was adopted. And I realized I could have been aborted, and I would be okay. I would have been okay with that or something.
She told me, how would you be okay with that? You would have been
here.
I'm adopted. I'm from China. And because I never knew my birth parents, I would be okay if I had been adopted. As if knowing your birth parents would have made it less okay. It was an extremely confusing, nebulous backstory, but I really felt for this girl. She shared with me that her cousin had obtained an abortion when she was like 8 or 9 years old, and she remembers that being a really formative experience when her cousin was still in high school, and that at the time she just had no understanding of what that meant. Now she's looking back on that and trying to justify, was that okay? Was that not okay? Should somebody have said something to her? And she was very open to hearing anything that we had to say. She was a very kind young woman. But I'm finding, and I love that we're prioritizing this Q&A and open forum discussion in all of our tour stops, including even putting off our speech to allow for this dialogue to happen, because 98% of the people who come ask us questions are genuinely curious. They have likely never been presented a pro-life point of view or perspective ever from their parents, from their cousins or older siblings, certainly not from their college professors who are encouraging them to act like hooligans like we saw at Virginia Commonwealth University instead of educating them. But there's this curiosity and intellectual hunger that I see in these students' eyes that there's just no way of satiating that in their current environment. And most of the time, I really do believe we are planting seeds to have those students go home and continue asking the right questions and eventually change their mind.
That's right. And I often think sometimes, you know, like this girl who came up to us last night, she even said, I didn't want to ask a question. And I think that's, you know, those are the people we're trying to reach in a presentation because, you know, sometimes people will ask me like, well, why do you do this? These people come up, they're clearly deranged or crazy or don't care what you have to say. They want to make you look bad. You answer them. And what good has that done? They haven't changed their mind. You haven't changed your mind. And I'm like, but you haven't considered everybody sitting in the audience, because in every one of these events, there are mushy, middle of the road folks, students who are trying to feel out this issue, who would never get up and ask a question. And it's like fascinating, I think, from the speaker's perspective to like watch that light bulb go off.